question really is, can you change your nature if you end up becoming, a fearful or an angry person, or, can you expand on that?
Okay, we need to understand, absolutely, none of this works if you can't change your nature. Because we're supposed to become Yeshua-like. That's a change in our nature. And by the way, that change of nature can go positive or negative. You can get worse or you can get better. You can elevate or you can go down, all right? So you can go from someone who was fairly positive to having life maybe beat on you a little bit, and you start becoming more the victim mentality, and the next thing you know, your nature starts getting fearful and doubting and everything else. That can happen. And then you're going to need help, counsel, guidance, therapy, whatever, to understand what happened and how you ended up where you are so that you can fix it and reverse that and go back in the right direction, going up instead of down in terms of, now I'm not talking about like heaven or hell, I'm saying just like if you think about you're starting at 0 and going up to 100 is Yeshua, okay, and going all the way down to negative 100 is whatever worst thing you can imagine, you can end up in fear and doubt, which is below 0, that's in the negative. Or you can go into the positive, confidence, trust, belief, faith, and you start moving up the scale, all right? But your nature, when you habitually spend time in something, the more time you spend in trust, the more your nature becomes trusting. The more time you spend in fear, the more your nature becomes fearful. And so having it happen occasionally doesn't make it your nature. However, if you don't get a hold of it, it can become your nature, okay? Have you ever met anybody just bitter and angry all the time? That's now their nature. I'm not saying somebody that can lose their temper. Anybody can lose their temper. But you've been with them at other times where they're just happy-go-lucky and they're fine, and then sometimes they lose their temper. Other people, they're just looking like they're sucking on a pickle all the time. And they're just like, basically the stereotypical crotchety old person who's just going around going, life just is not a bowl of cherries, all right, whatever. And they're just not happy about anything. They're nasty about everything because they're miserable, and it's now their nature, okay? So yes, your nature can change. It needs to change, but it won't change unless you want it to. You have to choose. Okay? Now some of you are like, well, I didn't want to be all bitter and angry. Well, you did. Not in a conscious way, like that's what you wanted, but you didn't stop it. Okay? Because if you really didn't want it bad enough, you wouldn't have let it happen. But you let it happen. But it was done to me. Well, but you still could have chosen to react to it differently. It would have been hard, challenging, but you still have choice. No matter what a person threatens you with, you don't have to do anything. You could always just let whatever the threat happen. But they made me do this. No, how'd they make you do it? Because they threatened me. Like my boss wanted me to come in Saturday and he made me work on Saturday. Well, how'd he do that? Because he said if I didn't, he'd take my job. He'd fire me. You could have been fired. You weren't made to do anything. You chose to give in to the fear of being fired. And the fear that if you get fired, you wouldn't find at least as good a job, if not a better job. So you gave in to a fear. All right? Nobody can make you do anything. The Father gives you all these opportunities. He doesn't try to make you do anything. He lets you have the choices. Same thing with your nature. You choose. If you're a victim mentality, broken, bitter, whatever, you allowed that to happen. I'm not saying other people didn't help it along, but you allowed it to happen, okay? If you can own that, you could also understand that you could fix it. See, as long as you believe everything came from outside, you can't fix it. It was done to you, you can't fix it. But if you understand that at least some part of you allowed it to happen, I don't mean allowed them to do whatever they did, allowed you to feel what you felt about it. Let's separate the two. Okay, the meaning you gave to the thing that happened, okay? That's what made you what you are. Now that meaning, somebody else may have given you that thought, a mother, a parent, or somebody said, well, that's because you're just a loser. That's just because, well, you don't have to receive that, okay? Now, you may have received it when you were so vulnerable that you didn't feel you had a choice. Now you know you have a choice. You can choose to think of it differently, feel differently, and discern things and label yourself differently.